Flipping a switch creates an instant result, whereas turning a dial creates a gradual result. Jon Acuff, in his book Your New Playlist, talks about the difference between a dial and a switch. We like things to switch when sometimes it's a dial in changes in our life. He's talking about the soundtracks in our head, the things that go over and over again. And he says sometimes we want just a switch to turn and we only have positive soundtracks in our mind versus the negative ones that seem to be playing over and over. And in that case, he says it's more a dial than a switch. There's gradual change and just turning things down, turning the noise down of the negative soundtracks in our mind versus the turning up the dial on the positive soundtrack over time makes a difference. And we need to not be frustrated when it's not the moment by moment switch that we want, instant results. Allow the dial to switch down, allow the dial to switch up. But that's also got me thinking about other areas. I think realizing which areas are switches and which areas are dials will help us to be patient with ourselves when we're in an area that's a dial rather than a switch. We want that instant result when in reality it's going to take some time. For example, in your fitness life, where are those things, you're like, ooh, I'm going to run a marathon. You want to switch when in reality you need a dial. You need to make small changes over time that almost seem like you're not even making any progress. But if your mind says, no, I'm changing the dial's moving a certain direction, that will help you. Or maybe in your finances, you're currently in debt and you're like, I want to switch to go off and an instant change to take place. When in reality, you need a dial to move. You need to change your thinking. You need to change your habits. You need to change all the things in your finance. You need to change slowly over time, and you will see results. You will get there. But if you get frustrated because it's not an instant switch, you're going to get frustrated and give up. Or here's a little more personal type of a thing, maybe in the area of grief. Grief is not an instant process. It's a dial. Someone referred it to throwing a rock into a pond, and then there's waves that come with it. So if you're in the midst of a wave of grief, you don't want to give up in those moments and say, oh, this is never going to change. You got to ride the wave, let the dial keep moving so you get in the direction you want to. So the important thing I'm trying to get to you today is sometimes we get frustrated because things are not switches. But maybe they're a dial, and maybe you're moving in the right direction. Which leads me to one other thing that will be an encouragement to you. The final thing that I want to be an encouragement with you on this idea of switches and dials is that we are walking with Jesus, or hopefully you're walking with Jesus and all the changes in your life. And that will be an encouragement. He says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. When you're walking with him, it may feel slow, it may feel so much like a process, and you're walking next to Jesus, and you're learning his, what one translation talks about, his unhurried rhythms of grace. We want switches. He often brings dials into our lives. So be encouraged, continue to stay in the process, and continue to walk with Jesus.